Documenting my training every single week has always been something I've wanted to do because watching yourself do anything can often yield to wonderful insights as to what you're doing. There's just so many insights to gain from watching you do anything. And in particular training, because you can't exactly see yourself doing certain kinds of motions easily unless you have a spot. I don't have someone to spot me to point out if I'm doing an exercise wrong, or if I'm not doing the full range of motions, or if I'm not engaging the muscle as completely as I should, but I can fix that through recording myself do my exercises. Originally, this was just a project for myself, just so I can verify what I'm doing, but I figured that if I'm putting all this effort into recording all this footage, why not explain what I'm doing and the problems I'm facing along the way? After all, if I find a problem and I can explain it to you and then fix it, that means I really do understand the solution to that problem. To be able to explain a problem is to understand the problem. If you can't put it into unambiguous words, then you don't understand it well enough. If my purpose is to make sure that my form is right, and I have any problems with it, then my goal should be able to explain the problem to you guys. Because then I know I actually understand the problem, and so I can really fix it. Without further ado then, I'm going to go ahead and review this week's routine. Or I should really say, I'm going to review last week's routine. On Monday, I hit my chest, back, and forearms. For my chest, I did handstand holds, I did supported dips, and I did push-ups. My handstand holds were better this week than they were last week. I've made some progress, made some improvements. I was able to hold them just a little bit more, and I was a little bit more stable on the rotation upwards. So as I was bringing my feet over my head, that felt more solid this week than it did the last week. So 2 thumbs up. As for the supported dips, I did 3 sets of those, and I really wasn't as strong in that exercise as I would like to have been. My chest was a little bit too fried after those handstand holds, but that's gonna happen. I did the sets, and so hopefully next week we'll be able to keep my chest alive a little bit longer. But that's expected to happen, especially since I'm doing those dips after I was doing those handstand holds, and those handstand holds just destroy the chest. So I really can't expect myself to have a whole lot of power. I ended the chest by doing push-ups, where I did my triple 30, where I do 30 seconds of push-ups followed by 30 seconds of rest, and then 30 more seconds of push-ups. After the dips, I knew that there was no way I was actually going to do these push-ups with totally correct form all the way through. My chest was just a little bit too dead. I gave it my all though. I took my chest to failure once, and then I just said, okay, I'm done. And that's all that I really care about. Getting my chest to the point where it is at absolute failure, but not overdoing it. For my back, I did strap pull-ups, strap rows, and lawnmowers. I really like doing them in this order because the strap pull-ups hit my lats, and they also really engage my traps and my rhomboids. Now, my rhomboids and my traps are going to fail first, which is fine, because once they failed, I simply switched from the strap pull-ups to the strap rows, which almost exclusively targeted those lats. But because the strap pull-ups also engage my lats, I had also hit them a little bit, so I didn't need to do like 5 sets on the rows. I only needed to do 3 sets on the strap pull-ups and the strap rows to get my traps and my lats and my rhomboids all firing and all engaged. Then I finished with 4 sets of lawnmowers, which are fantastic for getting the upper trap, the mid trap, and the rear deltoid. The last exercise I did on Monday was the hanging sit-downs, where I just hang from a pull-up bar with my knees extended in front of me. Hanging from the bar works your forearms a lot, and then having your knees in front of you is supposed to hit your lower abs. But I really couldn't actually get my lower abs engaged because my forearms just burnt out too quickly. Moving to Friday, I again worked my chest and my back. This time though, I also worked my shoulders and legs. For my chest, I did incline bench in 2 different ways. I did them body supported and I did them bench supported. Now the reason I do them in these 2 different ways is because each one of the ways, the bench supported and the body supported, require different things from the body. Basically, the body supported, the ones where I'm leaning back, are way harder to do because whenever I'm pushing a weight away from me, I'm also at the same time having to stabilize my body against that weight, and normally the bench does that job. You're pushing yourself against a bench, and the bench will stabilize your body so it doesn't move. But if you don't have that bench, then you have to generate the force required to stabilize against that weight as you're moving it away from you. And I'm really happy with my performance on that body weight supported incline press. On my heaviest, I had 2 30-pound dumbbells, And I could not ask for more than that. The last time I did this exercise, I believe I had two 20-pound dumbbells, and that was 3 weeks ago. So I've jumped 10 pounds in 3 weeks. Not bad. I then followed the incline presses on Friday with Olympic holds. Now, Olympic holds don't translate very well to video because it's an isometric exercise. Isometric exercises don't translate well to video because there's nothing to really watch and gauge. There's no motion so that you can watch a muscle turn on and off. The muscle just turns on and then I just stay still. With that said, Olympic holds are one of my favorite way of hitting my chest, my biceps, my triceps, my traps, my shoulders, my lats to a little tiny extent. So it hits the entire body, which makes it a really nice way to see if there are any weak areas at all. Because if there's a weak spot in your body, if there's a weak muscle, then that will fail first. So I try to do this exercise once a week, maybe once every other week, just to see which muscle fails first. And it's a nice, convenient way for me to make sure that everything is progressing at a nice, even pace and that no singular muscle is lagging behind. For shoulders, I did seated shoulder presses for 3 sets and goalposts for 2 sets. I do the shoulder presses sitting down because I find that if I'm standing up, I'm really tempted to push off of the ground in order to get the weight up, and I can kind of arch my back as I'm trying to push the weight up, which is a kind of a cheat, and it's really easy to do it. By sitting down, I'm eliminating all of the assistance I am then giving to my shoulders, which allows me to really, really just work them and only them. I follow them up with goalposts, which are probably one of my weaker exercises that shouldn't be. This is one of the cases that I'm not really sure what I'm doing wrong, but I'm gonna figure it out. I don't have any current theories as to what it is yet, but I will get back to you. For my back, I did Supermans and bent over rows. The Supermans I did with 5 pounds and 2.5 pounds. And if that sounds kind of light to you, I would recommend trying them. Because the Superman is one of those humbling exercises that if you see someone do it, you're like, that isn't that hard to do, right? But if you try it, it's just this nightmarish thing. And that's exactly why I do it. It doesn't beat around the bush at all. It makes no attempt at boosting my ego. It gets right to the point of, hey, you want to get a stronger back, right? Well, you're going to have to lift a really light weight because your back isn't that strong. I followed the Supermans up with bent over shrugs, which I did for, I believe, 3 sets, maybe 4, not sure, didn't write it down. I do the shrugs bent over because I find it's a really nice way of hitting my mid trap with my upper trap. Plus, when you're bent over, your arms want to roll inwards a little bit. In order to resist your shoulder's desire to roll forward, you need to engage your rotator cuffs to pull it backward. By just bending over then, I go from engaging one muscle, being the upper trap, to engaging 5 or 6. It makes it a much more dynamic, much more engaging exercise. I did finish Friday off with weighted duck walks. I did this exercise in 3 different ways. The first way I did it, I walked some number of steps forward, followed by the same number backwards. The second way I did it, I walked 2 steps forwards, followed by 2 steps backwards. And then the last way I did it, I walked in a circle. The reason I do it in 3 different ways is because each different way places a slightly different demand on my body, which means that I have to use a slightly different set of muscles. Now, at a fundamental level, it's still a duck walk. Regardless of how many steps forwards or back I take, or whether I'm going in a circle, it's still that same duck walk. But because the weight is moving differently on my back, my body has to respond to it a little bit different. So it's going to stimulate a little bit different muscles. It's going to have to use different muscle groups. And so it's like I'm getting 2 exercises or 3 exercises from one motion. The last day I exercised of the week was Saturday, where I hit my back, my shoulders, my arms, and my abs. For my back, I did flying T-Rexes and bent over rows. The flying T-Rexes work out my rotator cuff really well, and the bent over rows are designed to work my lats and my traps out. Now, because I already had hit my back twice in this week already, I didn't expect a whole lot out of my lats. I did 3 sets on both these exercises, and I believe I had 2.5 pounds on the flying T-Rexes, and I was using 20 pounds on my bent over rows. Now, flying T-Rexes are another one of those humbling exercises that look really easy to do until you try to do them. And they work out your rotator cuff, which is a notoriously weak muscle group on guys. And I didn't have a whole lot of expectations for my bent over rows because I had already hit my back multiple times in the week. So I figured that I wasn't gonna get a whole lot out of them, but I wanted to work my lats one last time in the week, and doing a few sets of a light bent over row is a fantastic way of finishing a week, I found. To make sure that my lat gets stimulated enough, but without killing it. For my shoulders, I just did front raises, side raises, and rear raises. Fairly standard stuff, just to isolate the heads of my shoulders as much as I possibly can. For my arms, I did right angle holds, followed by concentration curls on my left arm only. The right angle holds are a really nice way of hitting my bicep and my back at the same time, and they're a really simple move to do. You just pin your elbows to your side, and then you hold the weight in front of you so that your forearms are parallel to the ground. I only did curls on the left side of my body because I have a slight asymmetry between my left and right bicep, where my right is stronger than my left is, and so I like to hit my left at least once a week with a set or two of curls, just directed at it so that I'm fixing that asymmetry. For my abs, I did hanging knee tucks and I did trunk twists. Now, a hanging knee tuck is different from a hanging sit down because in the knee tuck, I am actively curling my knees towards my chest, which really fires my mid abs and my lower abs. And then finishing the week with trunk twists, which are a fantastic way of hitting the obliques. The obliques being the side walls of your abs, where if this was the six pack, the obliques would be here. That recaps all of the exercises that I did at my house this week. It's worth mentioning that I also ran a 10K on Thursday, but that I didn't film because recording a 10K when you're running it, kind of a cumbersome thing to do, especially because I'm recording on my phone right now, and so I wouldn't exactly want to hold my phone like this when I'm running. That would be kind of weird. Anyways, if you have any questions as to why I picked certain exercises, feel free to leave a comment and I will get back to you. And as always, guys, have a good one.